Got a call this morning from a gentleman that operates a daycare, and naturally going from our 70, 80 degrees last week to 30 degrees this morning, realized the cafeteria is not cooling, or heating rather. This particular case, he did state that he went upstairs. It does feel like it's blowing air through the vents. However, non-heated air, just room temperature air. Said it's making a lot of noise, but it does not seem to be coming from the blower compartment down towards the bottom of the furnace. So, you know, just using our process of elimination there, more than likely he is hearing a fan that's got some problems, but it's probably the inducer fan and not allowing the thing to start. So we'll stop by, take a look, and see what we can find for him. Definitely feel the blower going. Let's crack these doors off and see what we see. So our inducer is definitely not running. We are showing a code over here. So we'll count our little light, or it just seems to be a steady blink with just the green light, which is steady flash on that, according to our diagram on the door. It's telling us we have an open limit, which, depending on how this is routed around, it may be tied to this pressure switch in such a way. This seems to be, well, that's interesting. Got something jumped out here. And it looks like there used to be a limit right there that's jumped out. And I see it up here. So that's interesting. So definitely need a new limit. Let's start this guy up and see what happens. We'll let it reset by killing power. So essentially we just killed power by pulling this door off, disconnecting our interlock switch here. All right, we'll just temporarily slide this door back on here. Oh yeah. I would say we definitely have an issue with our induction fan here grinding. So it's likely come loose off the little squirrel cage. And we do notice we're still showing an open limit. What that's probably indicating there, let's take this off. Seems like it'd be saying a pressure switch, but if we follow our wiring, we are going here, but our other orange wire is dipping down. This is concerning because it looks like it's been self-worked on, unfortunately, and that would be their limit for the high limit, essentially. So it was operating with no limit up here. So we'll mention that to them. This kind of case, it's always kind of strange because you don't want to say too much and make them mad if they worked on it themselves, but whoever worked on it previously definitely did not do them a service doing that. Quite the opposite. But let's get him a inducer for this guy and a limit as well, and I'm just going to pull these to make sure it's disabled anyway, and leave the power off. So for those of you who don't know why I'm very concerned about this, that is where that goes. This is your high limit. Essentially, if it gets too hot, you have a bimetal element in here that'll break the connection from these two prongs, shutting down the system should it get too hot. So either this guy was bad, I don't know, but somebody had it essentially permanently jumped out where it would just never shut down if this thing did run into an overheat situation, which is not a good thing. I am hoping that it was because somebody before me got here and saw the display there was showing an open limit, and they were just doing that to try to troubleshoot it. What you might notice straight away is our induction fan here housing is plastic, mounted to a plastic plate on our furnace, And our flue is actually plastic, and we have these interesting little drain lines coming off of it. So what we have here is a 90% furnace, otherwise known as a condensing furnace. So we have our standard heat exchanger here. As our hot gases are coming through, it comes into essentially a coil that looks very similar to what your air conditioning coil looks like up above it. And it actually condenses that flue gas down into a much lower temperature. Being that it is literally condensing, you do get water vapor out of it that turns into a condensate, and that is a little acidic. It's kind of, to put it in biological terms, about as acidic as urine a little bit. So it does have a tendency to eat up these flues. The flues are not getting hot enough either to really keep condensation from happening in them. So that's why you have to go with a plastic flue pipe. So if you ever see plastic, this is a condensating furnace. Changing the inducer fan is fairly similar though. This particular one, we have a few mounting things, and you can see you have a rubber gasket essentially holding your flue to your inducer. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Just remove our pressure switch. And this is just to prove that there's a vacuum, or that our inducer is running by proving a vacuum. Unplug this guy. These two wires here are essentially another limit. Let's get this little gasket off. Put on our new little gasket. And do pay attention to this little rubber sleeve. It is specifically fitted for this and tapered on one end. And if you will notice, it's designed in such a way so that water running through the flue will not go back into the inducer. So you do have these little drains on the bottom. So make sure when you're putting them back on, everything's facing the correct direction and they are snugly fitted. Otherwise, you will run into some problems. Just need to make sure our little drain down here is connected once more. Just a piece of 3/8 tubing, but over the years they do get brittle and uncooperative. So we should just be able to plug everything right back up after that. So remember to plug our limit back in down here. Remount our pressure switch here. That is something we'll have to rectify as well. Speak to them about it and get back over here. Technically, you're not supposed to have a flexible gas pipe coming into an appliance. You can have one connecting it from the hard pipe. So essentially flexible pipe to here, and then we should have a hard gas connector running out like black iron. So you could have a flexible going between the black iron, but technically that's a no-no as well. Didn't notice it the other day because I was too flabbergasted about the missing safety there, but we'll address that as well. Speaking of our missing safety, we'll go ahead and install one. You can get an OEM one, or it's really, really tiny, almost impossible to read, but it'll tell you what the open and close limit on these are around the sides there. Only thing left is we do have a ground here to hook up. And that's just our mechanical safety ground there. Since this motor is not connected to anything metal, it's just connected to plastic and rubber all around it. You do have to safety ground these. It's similar to the blower motors where they are on rubber isolators. That sounds much better. And you notice we have a solid light over here this time. We heard it click, so that'll be our igniter starting to come on. You can see it starting up over here. After it warms up sufficiently, the burners will ignite, and provided we actually see something on our flame sensor, it will continue running for a few seconds, and then the blower should come on. There's our ignition. The yellow light came on. It's basically telling us it does sense swaying, so we get the millivoltage through there. After a few seconds, our blower should come on. And there we go. So they should be good to go. We'll put it back together and get on out of here. Not too bad on that one overall. You probably did see me be a little perplexed when I looked over and realized the main limit was completely wired out. That's a very big no-no. As you can imagine, the main limit implies it is the main limit to keep the thing from melting down, catching on fire, getting too hot and whatnot. So do not wire those out. I am hoping that he had somebody troubleshooting it before I got there, or possibly a maintenance guy there on the site was doing some exploratory surgery, as that motherboard or main board rather did flash limit problem. So I'm hoping somebody was just doing a little troubleshooting and forgot to remove it before they called me. I did mention that to the owner of the property. As far as replacing that induction fan, pretty similar to replacing one on an 80% furnace. The main difference is it is plastic. A 90% plus is a condensing furnace, so they do actually condense moisture. As your 80%ers, they just blow your combustion products through your heat exchanger and get as much out of it, 80%, and then vent the other 20%. The idea is they want to keep the flue hot enough that it cannot condense moisture in the flue and blow back out. So your condensing furnaces are doing completely the opposite. They're intentionally condensing. So down at the bottom where you saw that extra plastic housing running across, that was actually covering your essentially condensing heat exchanger. So your combustion products run through, condense. You have to drain the water out, so you'll have a lot of drains around on there. The product is, or the combustion product as it's coming through, the gases, they are now warm. They're not flamingly hot like on an 80% furnace, but they are very, very humid, and that humidity is very acidic. So you can't really use metal because that it will just eat right through any kind of metal you put on it. So you do see plastic and rubber used a lot more on those. Pretty much anytime you come up to a furnace and it has a plastic flue, hey, that's a condensing furnace, it's 90%, cool. As far as swapping it out, like I say, same thing, pop a few bolts out, take a few wires loose, you know, your little vacuum hose to deal with. The main thing to worry about is, again, they do condense water. Water can get inside, and does get inside the housing, that plastic housing on the fan itself. So if you'll notice that little sleeve or union point between the induction fan and the flue, it was shaped very specifically. That way it could drain the water out of your inducer through that little hose in the bottom, and hopefully keep the water from coming back through your flue back into it. The flue over there had its own drain coming down that direction. So do pay attention when you put those back together. If you don't, you will be going back, because suddenly you'll have water in your heat exchanger and your fan, and it'll be gurgling and not working correctly. going along with that, I don't know if you could notice, but there was another pressure switch sitting on the side just for that exact eventuality. You want to make sure you've got actual flow through that heat exchanger, through your condensing heat exchanger as well. It is possible the thing fills up full of water, so typically you'll see a couple of pressure switches. We were only really dealing with one in this particular case because it was one mounted directly to our inducer we had to remove. But all in all, changed out pretty easily, got them going. Did have a discussion with him, as I say, about, you know, I don't know who did that, but no. It's rough to do. You do have to say it, though, because you never know. You don't want to make anybody mad, but at the same time, you got a building full of children kind of thing. You definitely don't want an issue like that happening. Also, did speak to him about coming back over and fixing that where they had a flexible gas connector coming through the outside of the unit into the unit, connecting directly to the gas valve. Yeah, it works, but it's flexible. It wiggles. It's going through metal. It can wiggle a hole in itself. So you want to have black iron going from outside, inside the furnace to outside. Then you can have your flexible connector connecting to the black iron going into the appliance. But all in all, got them taken care of, and we'll move on to the next one.